Hey guys, welcome to Movie Lover News. You're going to notice that the format is kind of different for our show today. We're trying out something that I think is pretty cool. Tyrone and I have really wanted to do this kind of thing for a long time. A lot of our friends have really been pushing us to do this kind of thing. We've even got some comments from you guys about it. And we are doing a show together for the first time as together, I guess, as we can do a show, as I'm here in San Francisco and Tyrone is in South Africa. Anyways, what we're going to do is kind of a little different than what stuff we've done before in terms of just reporting the news. This is going to be a little bit more of a conversation about what's happening in movies right now. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy. Today we're going to talk about The Black Swan, which obviously everyone is really excited about. And we're also going to go back in film news a bit and talk about The Social Network, which was obviously a big and impressive movie. So yeah, that's what we're doing on the show. As always, let's jump right into it. Tyrone, what do you want to say about Black Swan? What do you think? It opens up today here in the States, actually tonight. I'm avoiding it tonight myself because I have a feeling it's going to be packed. I'll probably end up seeing it tomorrow or Sunday. But you're excited, huh?
Yeah, well, hearing it's packed is quite interesting because it's still not a commercial film, but well, that's good to hear. When it releases here in South Africa, it's certainly not going to be packed. But Aronofsky-wise, I'm really excited. I've only heard good things about it. Obviously, there's going to be the one or two negative reviews for guys who just subjectively don't like it. But 99% positive stuff. And yourself?
Yeah, I think that you're right. It isn't commercial. I think everyone I know is excited. I should asterisk that comment. I know everyone I know is really excited for it. Here's my thing about The Black Swan. I think it's almost understandable how people are going to shy away from that movie. The trailer was really intense, and I was discussing this with a friend of mine, and he was saying how his purpose to go see film is to get an emotional reaction, whatever that reaction might be, comedic, dramatic, or disturbing in this case. And I think The Black Swan is going to be an extremely disturbing film. So I think it's going to take both an acquired taste, and it's going to be one of those movies that you kind of have to be in the right mood to go see.
Box office wise, I don't see it grossing $100 million in the States. The Wrestler was very successful critically, yet it didn't gross hundreds of millions of dollars. I just think what supersedes this amongst at least the art community, the film community, is that it's a great film, and it's going to be one of those films that you remember. I've heard that Natalie Portman's performance is outstanding, and it's just for movie lovers like us. I'm sure I'm going to love it, and I'm sure I'm going to need to see it twice. And I think I'm going to, as much as I love The Wrestler, I think I'm going to prefer it to The Wrestler. And yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to prefer it to The Wrestler. I think that you raise a good point, but I think part of why The Wrestler didn't do as well as it did commercially is kind of because it's Mickey Rourke, and I love her to death, Marissa Tomei, not being as mainstream and high profile as Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis. And I think that after the popularity of The Wrestler, Darren Aronofsky's becoming more of a household name. And I think that having two such beautiful, noticeable, and well-known actresses as Portman and Kunis, I think that's going to drive a type of audience that you didn't see going to The Wrestler, which I think could be interesting. I think could expose Aronofsky to a newer and larger audience. Obviously, his major household name cometh will be Wolverine 2. But I think, I'm very excited for Black Swan.
Let's call it the Wolverine. Let's forget about the first Wolverine and not call it Wolverine 2, and yeah. And
I want to say something about that real quick. It was always my it was Wolverine. That's the Wolverine story that I always sort of identified with and knew. Him in Japan. That was the aspect of Wolverine's character, the time in his life that I always found really interesting. So, on a side note to that movie, I'm actually really excited for that because when the first or the second? They go up against kind of a modified Lady Deathstrike, right? Like she had the claws, she was the major fighter. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Who I think, and I'm sure there are going to be some fanboys who are going to call me out on this, I think she represented that character in her own kind of slightly changed up way. I'm really excited to see what Aronofsky can do with the Wolverine. But back to Black Swan.
Well, with Black Swan, do you think it's going to go mainstream? Because that's kind of like where we're talking about audience and box office. I mean, people will go see it in terms of Natalie Portman, but like Tron will possibly go mainstream, or whatever the case is. The Social Network even went mainstream, and it was a really, really good movie. But will it go mainstream?
But there's an obvious reason.
It'll have its audience, like you said.
I think there's an argument there because the Social Network went mainstream for the very obvious reason that it affected all of us on a very personal and daily level. It would be very difficult for you not to go see the Social Network and be connected as a human being, I guess. There was criticism that nobody of our generation went to go see Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which was a movie for our generation. But I think The Social Network was clearly, in a lot of ways, geared towards a very unique time in our history that we're all affected by. Do I think Black Swan has that same quality? No, not as much. I think even I, who am a fan, and we've obviously talked positively about it, am tentative. I'm looking at the trailer. I'm like, this is going to be some really wild, far out shit, and so not to shy away from it, but I'm going to go in there being like, I'm going to have my hair standing on the back of my neck. And
in terms of mainstream, like my parents, I'm not going to advise to go see the Black Swan, so it eliminates them where they could possibly be able to watch the Social Network. But what's great about the business of filmmaking is that it supports Aronofsky. It doesn't give him $100 million to make Black Swan. He works within that budget. The Wolverine will be mainstream. I mean, it has to be, which is great. And if you look at Christopher Nolan, the same kind of thing. Memento wasn't mainstream, but it got its audience.
Now we started talking about it a little bit. What do you think of the Social Network? I mean, switching gears a little bit.
Yeah, we have to.
I'll be interested to see what's your take on it as someone not from the United States. Might be an odd question to ask, but I'm here in Silicon Valley, so I have a very particular take on that movie and a take on Mark Zuckerberg and how they made that movie. What did you think all in all about it?
Okay, well, I don't want to get too much into the reality of it because I've read The Facebook Effect, which was a detailed book about the Facebook and the formation of it and the fact that it was based on truth. And I separate truth from that film, just like with Citizen Kane, what they did in terms of not making it exactly about the person, just a representation of society and maybe more of Silicon Valley or whatever. Sorry, I don't think that made too much sense. But as a film, like even more recently Zodiac, which he did, which wasn't as big for Fincher as Fight Club or Seven, I think as a film it's excellent. I look at it more as a film and not as a representation of Facebook or Zuckerberg, but as a film I really think it succeeded, and I don't think I enjoyed it as much as Fight Club. I don't think it impacted me, but I mean, Sorkin said it's like a courtroom type drama, so in that respect it's not as grandiose and big as a film like Fight Club. But I really loved it from a technical, selfish perspective, pushing new technology. It was shot on the Red camera, And
Yeah.
Fincher's been shooting on digital. He used the Sony beforehand, but now he prefers the red. And in the cinema, I don't think anyone's going to know that it was shot on digital. I think it was superb, and I think I loved it as a film. I had no issues with it, but knowing so much about the story, it's not going to be like Black Swan, where I think I'm going to be blown the heck away. I knew most of it. I'd read so much about it, and yeah.
So what did you think then about Eisenberg and Garfield? Because I know you were already a Garfield fan, but for me, and talking about mainstream, this was really my first experience with Andrew Garfield, and I was thoroughly impressed. I mean, I really enjoyed his performance. Do you feel the same way?
Working with Fincher, you're just going to get perfection. I think that Eisenberg, Garfield, Timberlake, everyone was superb. The film affected me as a film. If you knew nothing about it, I mean, you're just going to be treated to a great film. Sorry, to answer your question, I think the performances were excellent. I've always liked Eisenberg. He's got a unique kind of style. He's not as like offbeat as a guy like Michael Cera, but
yeah, good point.
I really, I don't think, what I liked about it really is that when Jamie Foxx played Ray Charles, or when these guys play real characters, Ali, Will Smith, for example,
Joaquin Phoenix, yeah,
they have to embody the character 100%. But I don't think this was even though he probably he mimicked Zuckerberg maybe 100%, but we don't know who, like, Zuckerberg's not a rock star or a hugely famous character, so it was more about just him acting as an actor, as opposed to taking on Zuckerberg, and that's where I think he succeeded, and will succeed as an actor further along. I think it was superb. I think we're going to have to close off the show just talking about Black Swan and The Social Network because of timing, and we'll have to do Tangled and the rest of our great shows at a later stage. So you didn't seem to 100% love The Social Network as much as I did by your mini review at a stage back.
Yeah.
So
if we have time to talk about it real quick, I think all the points you made were right on. I think acting was superb. I think that the directing was beautiful. It was a well shot, well organized movie. A lot of those kind of tracking shots that they had through Harvard really gave you both an atmosphere of the world they were living in, but also kind of the cold nature of the relationships that were built was nice, being offset next to the winter and all that, if that makes much sense.
Yes.
I did enjoy the film. I think I was trying to make the distinction that people were saying that this was another Citizen Kane, a defining movie of our time and all that, where I start to disagree with a little bit more. I think in 2 or 3 years, people aren't going to put The Social Network on their list of the greatest films of the last few years or the decade or whatnot.
Fair enough. And compared to
I think movies like Black Swan are probably going to make that list before The Social Network does. So I was just trying to be reasonable in my evaluation of the movie, but all in all, I think very successful movie.
Cool. Well, we can talk about movies for hours, and unfortunately, we're going to have to end the show. Alex, will you end the show off, please?
Yeah, guys, thank you as always. If you haven't seen the movies, The Social Network, Black Swan, obviously we'll forgive you. We haven't even seen it yet. Or Tangled, both Tangled. We didn't get a chance to talk about it.
We will.
Or we will. Tangled or The Social Network. Go check them out because they're both really fantastic movies. Even with the criticism we've put in here today, both movies are worth checking out. Thank you guys for checking in with us. I do want to point out we do have the headphones on. We are getting used to this new format. We're talking to each other. We can hear each other. It's really cool stuff. So anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will have another show coming to you real soon.